Double P podcast. Double P.
What I like to call
Double P.
What I like to call
Double P podcast.
Welcome to Irish Craic, podcast about Dublin murders, reviewed by an American and an Aussie. My name's Bubba, and with me as always is somebody who, when he's undercover and inside you, he knows you real well. It's Bagga. Bagga, how you doing?
Not too bad, Bubba. How are you going?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and give up the ghost right at the top. I am on cloud 9. I seconds ago finished watching this episode 4 of Season 1 of Dublin Murders, based on the novels In the Woods and The Likeness from Tana French, and I am over the moon. I'm going to give this episode 10 what I like to call double B's out of 10.
Double B's?
Yeah, well, double B's is a phrase I like to refer to as bitchin' bastards. Everybody is at their breaking points, and everybody's bitching and being a bastard, and everybody's on edge. I love it. It is rising the drama so much. Oh, it's so great. I just loved it beyond the moon. What'd you think, Bagga? What's your rating?
I loved certain parts of it, but other parts I was disappointed with. I've given it 7, what I like to call C.
Is that septuple C's?
Yep. Confounding character change, completely confusing Cassie.
Yeah, go deeper into that. It was crazy. I know what you're talking about, but in some ways I loved it. It was so dramatic.
Yeah, I just didn't understand the way that Rob totally pushed her away so quickly. Didn't seem to make sense to me, considering they were so close. I know they just had sex. I know it probably ruined their relationship, but it just didn't seem real to me.
It was jarring, I think, is the best way to say it. It was incredible. As I always like to say, I have read the first book, In the Woods by Tana French, and I loved it, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast. I haven't read the second. And in the second, as I've kind of already revealed here on the podcast, the first book is Rob's case, and the second book is Cassie's case, meaning like they're the lead detective in it, even though obviously they both play a part, yada, yada, yada. But this was incredible. The wild swings. Bagga, let me ask you a question. Who in this episode do you want to be? Or, more importantly, who do you not want to be? Who had it the worst in this episode? I think it's Sam. Sam got slapped by everybody. Cassie's boyfriend, Sam.
He copped it from all angles. I think he's got the worst of it so far. Yeah, definitely Sam. There's no doubt. There was a wolf that copped it as well that do so well.
This is as an audience member, we may have been run over, like the deer, like the wolf. Like we've been hit by a car. And call me crazy, I loved it. I'm already getting into some Twitter battles online about people who said, and this is their take, they said Rob in the books wouldn't have done it like this. Rob could be an a-hole many times and an arse, but he was a passive arse. The fact that he was so brutal with Cassie the next morning is really upsetting people. And let me say, I agree that is more Rob's character in the book, to be kind of a passive-aggressive fool, to do it kind of timidly as opposed to so brutal. But it was so jarring. Once again, I just loved it. I was over the moon.
So in the book, they didn't separate like that, I take it?
They have some battles, but they're not like that, no. This was a total shock to me, and I loved it. I loved it a lot. It is, like I said, it is a bit of a switch from Rob mumbling his way through things. But Rob, throughout this episode, just really blows up and does crazy stuff. And it is really, boy, he should be suspended. If he didn't have, Chief Varys, who doesn't seem to give a crap about anything, he'd be in deep trouble.
Well, I suppose we should get into some of that stuff a bit later, but certainly breaks the rules a lot during this episode. And it'll be interesting to see what the consequences will be, how far he's going to push it, because he's really pushing Carl, isn't it? The Carl that's come back from
Berlin.
Berlin. He calls him a different name. It's like Carl or something.
Yeah, there's an extra syllable in there.
Call him Carl.
Yeah, Rob is throwing an extra syllable into that name. It is crazy. Listeners, if you want to get in and throw your feedback to us, if you have different takes than we do, if you're confused, if you're anything, let me say I understand any and all thoughts on the show based on this episode. please join us on social media at Double PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P, then the letters HQ for headquarters. So it's Twitter at Double PHQ, Instagram at Double PHQ, and Facebook.com/Double PHQ. Peter, I'm going to go ahead and read some feedback we got right at the top. Is that cool?
Yeah, go for it.
So this was actually from YouTube, Cornelia Amory. Hopefully, Cornelia, I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. She wrote, Dublin Murders is getting even weirder and more intriguing when it was so weird and intriguing to begin with. I hope they show us what the wolves are about soon. Well, the wolves may be roadkill at this point.
There might be one less wolf to worry about now, I think.
What do you think, Bagga? Do you think it's weirder and weirder?
It is getting weirder. I really hope they do tell us what the significance of the wolves is, because they just seem to pop up. Well, it only seems like Rob's the only one that sees them, as far as I can tell. Are the wolves connected to the king of the forest, or whatever it is that lives in the forest? Are they like his eyes or something? I don't really know, but when they do appear, and Rob does look a bit freaked out when he sees them. Mm-hmm. Mind you, if I was in the basement of an office building like he was, looking through paperwork, and a wolf walked in, I think I'd probably be freaked out as well.
Yeah, not me. I've seen it all.
No.
I'm kidding.
What's one wolf?
Right, exactly.
I think the guy wolf from Game of Thrones, the other ones just don't mean anything.
Well, let me say that, listeners, I found this great article on Vox.com. I'll list it in the show notes, where the title of the article was How Tana French's Dublin Murder Thrillers Developed Their Cult Following. It was trying to understand why so many of us have read these books and loved them. And a couple of pull quotes from the article. It said, most detective series try to keep their characters static, meaning Hercule Poirot. He's always a retired Belgian detective there in England. Normally in England, sometimes everywhere else. Sherlock Holmes, he's always at Baker Street. He's kind of static. But Tana French avoids that. French's detectives are undone and remade by their cases. In every novel, they are taken apart and then put back together again by mysteries that are fiendishly designed to reveal their very worst tendencies. And at the end of the book, when they move on, they're always fundamentally changed. And then this other quote I just love. In every Tana French book, every case is designed to destroy its detective. And we're only 4 episodes in, and both these detectives feel like they're being destroyed.
So things aren't looking good for Rob then?
No, I don't think things are looking good for Cassie. I'm not sure Quigley may be looking the best.
Yes. I did have that theory last week about the polar bears.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, no, that was a bit strange, bit weird, bit out there. So I've had a real think about this week, and I've come up with a brand new theory.
Oh, let's hear it.
Let's just stay with me with this.
Okay.
Katie doesn't get killed.
Mm-hmm.
She gets to go to the ballet school. She becomes a fantastic ballerina.
Yep.
In a couple of years' time, she's up against another ballerina for the big part in Swan Lake or something. She gets the part. She goes on to have a huge international career. The other girl is always the understudy, never gets a limelight, has a miserable life, even though she's a ballerina. She's just a nobody, basically. Mm-hmm. Until one day she's at a bar and she's drinking and she's talking to a stranger who tells her about a cave that has a certain time machine built into it.
Okay.
And it can go back 33 years. So she goes back 33 years, but it's still before the time when Kate was killed. So what she does is, because she's still a good ballerina, she becomes Kate's teacher. The idea that she can kill at any time.
Oh, man, this is getting good.
Yeah, and now she's starting to develop feelings, enjoying teaching this girl, because this girl, as everyone says, is very likeable. Everybody says she's a fantastic girl and everything. and she's liking it. And then all of a sudden, she's found out in a week or a week and a half or something, the girl is going to go onto the Royal Ballet School.
Mm-hmm.
And she can't have that because that would defeat the whole purpose of her going back. So she kills Katie, then goes back into the future. And because Katie was no longer there, she got all the roles, and she is now a superstar in the future.
Now, Bagga, I have to be honest. This is going to say. Yeah. Now, obviously, a lot of people who pay attention to the podcast we do here at Double P Media might say, "Boy, that really feels a lot like you guys are talking about the show Dark that you do a podcast about." But people will know it's not dark because in that instance you just said, time travel actually worked out to somebody's benefit. So you know it's not dark.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, I know there are problems with it.
Okay.
But if I knew how to solve those problems, I wouldn't be doing a podcast. I would be working in TV, making TV shows.
You and me both, brother.
That's as good as I can get, I'm afraid. I can't bring out any more details than that.
All right. Well, listeners, hopefully this podcast gets you psyched out. Hopefully gets your little gray cells, as Hercule Poirot would say, thinking about how to solve this now double situations we've got. We've got the Katie Devlin murder, and we've got a second A plot, the who is this Lexi, who has been using Cassie's undercover identity and also seems to be an identical twin of Cassie. Cassie seems to have based her undercover identity on an imaginary friend she created when her parents died in a car crash. Oogity, oogity, oogity. This is confusing to have two A storylines going at once. A part of me wishes they had just done one book per season, but if we're going to get splintered into multiple directions, buckle your seatbelts like Cassie's parents maybe didn't do, because we got a bumpy ride. We got to put it all together.
I did wonder about the fact that young Cassie gets out of the car and doesn't actually go to check on Mum and Dad unless things are really bad in there. But she just says, Mum, Dad, and then this other Cassie comes along, or Lexi as she's called, and says they're dead. You'd think you'd still want to check.
A little girl like that? Yeah. Yeah, no, I think a little girl like that would want to check. Think of the similarities that she created for this imaginary doppelganger of hers. She is Cassandra, but she never goes by Cassandra. She goes by Cassie. Her identical doppelganger is Alexandra, but only goes by Lexi. And one seems to be repressed, while the other lets her freak flag fly and is willing to rip off wallpaper. It's a release of some way of Cassie is no longer constrained by convention. She could be Lexi and do whatever the hell she wants. I didn't do it. Lexi did it, as Rob coldly, terribly, bitchin' bastard Rob says near the end of this episode. We have this wolf, Bagga, and we've been thinking about the wolf the whole time. And that seems to be focused on Rob and the terrible thing that happened to him in those woods back in 1985. Now, I wonder if we have another demon animal, the deer, which smashed through the windshield as it killed Cassie's parents. Oh, terrible.
It is, and also there's a interesting concept you could come up with. Alexi, the real person, and is Cassie the dream person.
Oh, man. Now we're going into Twin Peaks, which we covered on Twin Peaks, the Gifted and Damned podcast. Yeah.
I was going to say, I've covered the terror. I've covered dark. Maybe next week could be Twin Peaks with doppelgangers and all sorts of things going on.
So to set it up, Cassie had this terrible tragedy happen to her when she was a child. Later, we see when she's a young police officer, I want to call her Officer Maddox, she gets pulled into Frank Mackey's undercover squad. Frank Mackey, I sometimes refer to as young Stannis, and he wants her to go undercover to target this person, Vincent Johnstone, who is some sort of drug dealer, and they want her to pose as a student in college. And the identity she comes up with is, sure enough, her imaginary friend Lexi. We jump forward to the present, and we pick up where last episode ended. There's this identical person, this somehow Cassie doppelgänger, Lexi, who has an ID of Cassie's alias, this Lexi, and was killed by a wound to the heart, which is almost identical to a wound Cassie suffered herself when she was undercover.
What were the odds of that?
You couldn't hit those odds in Vegas, let's put it. That seems impossible.
No.
Frank makes the natural assumption, I think anybody would, was, okay, this person was either a setup by this evil drug dealer, Vincent Johnstone, who seems to be in prison, Johnston, who's in prison, and or this is a woman who stole Cassie's identity, or her undercover identity, and then Vincent Johnston somehow put out a hit on her, trying to finish the job of killing Cassie, which he wasn't able to do before. But of course, Cassie and Frank go to the prison. Cassie has a discussion with this guy who says he actually liked her. You sly little bitch. And Cassie leaves without saying anything, tells Frank it's nothing to do with him. What is your initial impression of this backstory of Cassie? You know, I haven't read this book, so I almost want to say, how can this have nothing to do with this undercover sting on this guy? It feels like it has to have something to do with him.
It does, but the fact that when she has the discussion, as you said, she actually doesn't say a thing to him. He speaks to her, and she's obviously expecting him to look at and say, "You're alive," or something. But you know, he's just, "Oh, what are you here to gloat?" and stuff like that. And she doesn't say a thing, and then she gets up and walks away, and says that it wasn't him. But I thought that was brilliant. I thought it was just a really clever way of just filling in the mood of the show.
No, I think that's a great point too. Yeah, it's odd, it's eerie. We're getting all this backstory. We're finding out about things. Now, of course, Cassie was in that trial testifying way back in the first episode, and so maybe this is tied to that. Well, we will have to see. The person who I wouldn't want to be is Sam. Frank looks at Sam after Cassie has walked away, and he says, "What kind of boyfriend are you, O'Neill? She looked shaky." So Sam goes to comfort her, which he should have done without prompting. When he tries to comfort her and put a hand on her and like, "Hey, it's okay," she snaps at him. She's like, "Listen, damn it, Sam, we're at work." Oh, Sam, it's going to keep getting worse for you, so this is the worst day of your life, buddy.
It is. And not only does she say that, but then she walks off to answer her phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's Rob, of course, calling her.
Oh.
So, poor old Sam, he's really copying it. I just don't think things are going to go well for those two. But
it's going to be real tough to get them back together, man. Oh, after all the things she said to him, what are you going to do when your mom dies? Like, my parents were dead, obviously. The subtext. Oh, listen, hey, you think I'm covering for my dreaded English partner, Rob? Well, guess what? When I was undercover, I did this criminal multiple times, and I enjoyed it. Oh, my God, how terrible.
Yeah, good way to make you feel good, isn't it?
Oh, man. Let's step away from the relationship drama of poor Sam. Sam transferred to a different department, buddy. But let's get to the F my bits of Chief Varys, who states it like it is. This woman is an identical twin, this victim. She was killed apparently between 1 and 1:30 a.m. An 8-inch blade got in between her ribs, where the ribs kind of saved Cassie when she was stabbed. The victim is a student in the English faculty at Trinity College, and she was 3 months pregnant. Ooh. Cassie is so freaked out about that, Cassie takes a pregnancy test herself.
I don't blame her. I think I would rush home and do it as well, because everything else is exactly the same. The knife spot is exactly the same. She looks exactly like her. She's using her name. I'd be running home to do a pregnancy test too. But
Frank Mackey, what do you think of him? What do you think of young Stannis? What is your opinion on him? Because he and Chief Varys don't seem to get along too well.
Frank said to Sam when they were discussing about whether they would pretend that the Lexi was going to be alive or not.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, as for the Gardaí, I'll swing my big dick around and they'll do as they're told. And I thought, yep, that's about right. Because, people that have got that sort of power, the local Bobby isn't going to stand up against him. I do like him in a strange sort of way, but I don't know how much you can trust him. Because is he going to look after you, or is he more worried about solving the case?
I know which way I would imagine he is. I would say, yeah, you're pretty low on his care list, I bet, from the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, if everyone dies, as long as the case is solved, it's another tick for his box.
Listen, I gotta clear these cases, man.
To varies, which is, I'll say this nice and slow because we all know you still work your computer with the foot pedal.
Oh.
And I thought, yep, that's a beauty. Hard to come back from that.
Yeah, it's not nice. Not nice, Frank. Well, Varys never liked Stannis on Game of Thrones, so these two, I don't think they're ever going to be friends.
No, I can't wait to see what they're going to be in next because they're probably going to be some sort of boxing film or something.
Let's get into this imposter Lexi a bit more. She was living in a house which she was one of the owners in. These 5 students own the house together. There's Raphael Lahiri, Daniel March, who's the only one we really know anything. At 17, he nearly killed a fellow student in school, got sent to a different boarding school, and he's the one who I think convinced all of them to buy the house together. There's also somebody named Justin Mallory and Abigail Abby Stone. We don't really know anything about him, but we meet him today, and theoretically, these are the people that if Cassie goes through with it and goes undercover as Imitation Lexi, she's going to have to start living with these people who she doesn't know at all. Tough undercover assignment there, girl.
Very tough. And, of course, there is a possibility that one of them might have been the one that killed her, or killed Lexi.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know yet. I mean, they're talking about there could have been somebody watching and all that sort of stuff, but we haven't got that far in the story yet. So who do you trust? If I assume she'll eventually head back there. I think that was Frank's plan, wasn't it? To eventually let it go back. Yeah, I mean, the guy, of course, who to me would be the biggest worry would be Daniel March because he seems to be the leader of the group.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what I would think, too.
And he is the one that nearly killed a boy, so he's obviously got some sort of a temper on him. So the others just seem to be following along to what he says. But, I mean, it's early days yet. We don't really know them, so they do claim to be her family, though. She didn't have a family or something. Right.
No, they didn't want to mention it. She didn't have a family, and they didn't want to talk about it because they don't like talking about things that make people feel terrible. And so that was the idea, that whoever this Imitation Lexi was, she kind of lied about a bunch of stuff, so they wouldn't ask her questions about her. We did see the Imitation Lexi in the car in that village outside the pub where Quigley and Sam were talking that one day. And I almost want to go back to that episode and see who she was in the car with.
She was with...
Yeah, I can't remember.
No, I can't think of who it was.
Listeners, you can always set us straight by tweeting at us at DoublePHQ, Facebook.com/DoublePHQ. Let us know, because once again, I haven't read this book. I'm going to try to solve this one like I tried to in The Woods, and I didn't get that one right. Oh, so bad of Detective Bubba not solving that case either. Let's get through some of this emotional breakdown that Cassie has. So the woman we met in the first episode, who Rob was interrogating her and really tough on her, I really thought Rob is almost too tough, and possibly he was. She confessed on her man. Her man's family came and attacked her brutally. And she's like, that English guy said I was shit. If you don't get me a new place, I'm going to squeal and say what you and your partner did. We've already heard from Frank. Frank was her undercover boss who said, listen to me, you're currently still undercover, Cassie, when you pretend to be Sam's girlfriend and going on these things. We know how did he say it? We know your weak point is Rob Reilly. Oh boy, did he. Yeah. He must have had a spoiler alert for the rest of the episode. Sam, who is trying to be good, he got snapped at the house, and now he's at he drove her to the hospital. She had a bit to drink, and he makes probably his only mistake by kind of attacking her about, wait, you let that English jerk tell this poor woman that she was an Irish piece of shit? That doesn't go over too well with Cassie, and she totally smacks him down. He tries to be tough, like, you got money, get a cab home, but, buddy, that was too little, too late. You got served.
Yeah, when she came over, knocked on the window, and then told him how much she liked having sex with the Johnston, wasn't it? The criminal. That wouldn't have felt too good, I don't think. And then, of course, she walks off. So that'd be tough.
Right.
Tough to hear.
Oh, yeah, you got to be kidding me. Tough to hear. So she reconnects with Rob. They cover the In the Woods case for a bit. Rob hits this animal in the road. It triggers even worse memories for her. And this is, as she keeps saying, been one of the worst days of her life. Rob comforts her. The next thing we see, they have spent the night together. And you think, oh, this is kind of good. They had a great chemistry. They worked well together. But the person who doesn't think this is good is Rob. The fact that he's up out of bed already and out staring out the window. God, why did he do it? Why was he such an a-hole? Yes, he's ruined their friendship and possibly their partnership. But to be so terrible. Oh, now, of course, Cassie was terrible to other people too, but he was her weakness, and now he's not a weakness anymore. He's on the shit list with everybody else.
I still have trouble the way he sort of totally changed in his attitude towards her. Whether it's a defense mechanism that he can't let anyone get too close, but he'd already let her get close enough to know all the truth about him. So I couldn't quite work that out.
It was brutal. It was wrong. We don't have any clue as to why Rob, who did have feelings for her, that next morning when he's looking out the window, he's thinking about them eating and having that little snack out by the pier on the ocean. He thinks about her sitting in the booth after he's had a rough time with his mom and them bonding there. He does really care about her. And, oh boy, this is another thing that we, as we keep talking about him, once we get to this In the Woods case, which we've been following all these episodes so far, dude, he's still a suspect. He might still be suspect number one. What personality switches? What's wrong with him, man?
There is something strange about him, no doubt that. And you just don't know, could something push him over the edge at some stage? Especially with the three older boys that Carl and the other two, I've forgotten as usual.
Yeah, it's Jonathan, Devlin, and Shane, right.
Yeah. Is something going to push him over the edge that he's going to do something to one of them? So
I wouldn't put it past him. He's doing terrible.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised that Kelly hasn't sort of noticed that he looks a bit strange.
No, you're right.
Because to me, he does look stressed, very stressed.
Okay, well, let's jump to that case, the In the Woods case, as opposed to the likeness case. And In the Woods, it begins with Rob. He's at Cassie's place. They are partners. Everything would be great, but she's not there. So he has to interview this Cal, or Cahal, or however you want to say it, Mills, by himself. I keep talking about so much plot and so much character, but the score, as Rob is marching into this office and he's going to confront him in a conference room in front of a lot of other people. The score did wonders for me because it was like, oh no, Rob, what are you doing? What are you doing? Rob, you don't have any evidence whatsoever. And oh my God, the way he buzzed him, the way you have porn on your laptop computer. Holy smokes, he is going hard at this person who admittedly was a bull. Admittedly, as a kid, he hated this person. And that bully may still have all the same tendencies as usual. But oh snap, was he That's not, no cop should act that way. Oh my God.
No, and when Rob was actually walking away, to me, it looked like he had a bit of a grin on his face, like he just enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. Getting back at the bully. Oh my goodness.
When he said the jailbait right at the end and then walked out, because that seemed to stun Carl quite a bit. So,
yeah, Detective Varys, a.k.a. Chief Kelly, he should tell him off. But he spins it and completely lies. He tells Chief Varys, he says, I got this tip that he was into underage girls. That's not true at all. He's remembering something from his childhood, from 85. Oh, my goodness.
He's just made it up so to get himself out of trouble. And, of course, Varys buys it and goes, oh, great, let's get him. And, he always says that, I love this bit when you get the smell of them in your nostrils, which is quite nice. It does show that Rob is prepared to say anything to get a result, basically.
Yeah, and admittedly, that's one of the things that theoretically Cassie likes about him and hates about Sam, how Sam won't go low, go dirty to get results. You know, he doesn't want to tell these kids, hey, your friend is still alive. He wants to be more decent, for lack of a better word, but all the people around him, including Cassie, and definitely somebody like Rob, they don't care. They want results. Let's get to it. Woo.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things Rob says to Kyle as he asks him, do you have a tracksuit? Do you have a tracksuit? So Rob is not only saying and lying and all these things to Kyle, he's trying to pin Kyle to be the tracksuit guy. He goes, this archaeology student, Damien Donnelly, is brought in, Quigley showing him all these photos, and Damien looking at all these photos and finding out what these people have done. Damien's a nervous, silly college kid. He's freaking out. But Rob wants him to finger this Kyle Mills. When he doesn't, Rob demands that get Damien back in here tomorrow and let's do up this picture of Kyle Mills looking differently and see if he says something. He is forcing a result.
Certainly got it in.
That
would that stand up in court? Questionable.
No, but let's say that Rob is doing things wrong, but he may be getting results. We'll touch on this briefly before we get to some of those results. Rob goes to the ballet school. Rosalind and Katie's twin Jessica are there. Rosalind is upset that Katie didn't tell her about this man in the tracksuit. She's freaking out. She says to Rob, why are you here? And I don't mean here at the ballet school. Why are you in Ireland, Rob? Well, my dad was from Ireland. He died. I felt the pull. Once again, Rob, real easy lying. But then Jonathan Devlin shows up. He doesn't want... He's upset Rosalind's there or something about helping Simone all this time. He's testy about his daughters talking to his cops. Stay away from my daughters, he's screaming. And then when Rob shows him a picture of Kyle Mills, Jonathan Devlin, he ain't having it. Oh, no, he didn't. Rosalind later hears her father on the phone, and you would assume, based on what happens later, that Kyle Mills has called him. They're getting nervous. Jonathan Devlin is making his family move into a caravan without any phones and stuff, without a bathroom. Nice work. That's one way they won't talk to the cops.
And he's going to leave Rosalind to do all the cleaning and cooking and looking after everybody.
Yeah, she's probably done that before.
Yeah, I think she might have.
So, anyway, the young police officer who really likes Rob has followed Kyle Mills. They're like, hey, you just follow him to this point, then we'll take over. Kyle and Jonathan Devlin meet in the woods. Kyle wants confirmation. Hey, Jonathan, your wife Margaret, she's going to stick by her story that we were at the cinema in 85. Jonathan is breaking down. You know, he seemed unhinged often. He certainly still has to be a main suspect. And he's like, listen, a reckoning is coming. Kyle's like, you're as bad as Shane. And Shane is so nutty, I'm ready to bury him in a ditch. Ooh. Jonathan keeps screaming, my daughter was killed. He punches Cal because he's so pissed off, and Cal doesn't seem to focus on that part of the story. Rob and Cassie see this. Obviously, these three people know something about what happened to the three kids in 85. Shane seemingly is the good guy because back in 1985, he mouthed to Adam/Rob, go now, go now. He was afraid of possibly what his buddies could be doing to those three young kids.
there are 2 points I want to make about the confrontation between Jonathan and Carl. For the first time in the series, I actually thought Jonathan has nothing to do with Katie's death.
Oh, wow, okay.
Up until now, I thought maybe he was an accessory, maybe he did it himself or something like that. But the way he was so upset with Carl about the fact that his daughter had died and he kept screaming at him, "My daughter's dead!" And then I thought, well, if he had killed or helped kill, he wouldn't have been so crazy as he was.
No, that you wouldn't think so, no.
And the other point which I want to raise is, if you have a look at from where Rob and Cassie are looking from, and you can see the two guys going at it, did you notice a washing machine in the background?
Was that what that was? I couldn't tell. I was trying to figure it out.
Either a dryer or a washing machine, just sitting there in the middle of nowhere.
Well, no wonder they want to put a byway through there. That's like a dump. Let's put a bypass in there.
It just seemed like a strange thing to put in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they're obviously trying to show that people just dump stuff there, but I mean, I couldn't stop staring at it, trying to work out, was it a washer, was it a dryer, was it something else? You know, rewind and watch the fight again because I was too busy watching the washing machine.
Ouch. Well, listen, at this point, I don't think anything's off the table. Even the dark time travel cave. We are going in a million different directions. Everybody's at their breaking point. I loved it so much. I know some people who cherish these books, who the stone cold face slapping. So many people were either verbally slapped in the face or physically slapped in the face. It was a breaking point, but I loved it, and hopefully you loved it as well. Peter, we are halfway through. What are your thoughts?
At the start, first of all, I did only give this a 7 at the start, but now I'm thinking about it. I think I might bump it up to an 8. It was good. There was a lot of good stuff in it, even if I didn't like the way that Rob and Cassie got separated. I'm going to give it an 8 instead of a 7.
All right. Well, be careful. Be careful. If Cassie hears you originally gave this a 7, she's going to slap the crap out of you, buddy.
I'm not sure what Rob's going to do either.
Well, he's going to lie about it and say, yeah, I heard Bagga likes child porn. Let's get his computer.
Yes.
Yeah, we're halfway through. It feels like, obviously, we're just dipping our toes into this storyline about the likeness. Feels like we still have a lot to learn about the In the Woods storyline. How are you feeling, Bagga? What are your thoughts halfway through this series?
I have to say I'm totally fascinated with the In the Woods story because obviously that's what we've mostly seen, the 3 kids and then Katie later on. And I'm dying to know how that's going to play out, whether it's connected and all that sort of stuff. I do have one worry that if Cassie is going to go undercover into the house with the other students, how is she, like she doesn't know Lexie, how is she going to know what Lexie would say or do, or maybe they just skip through that bit.
Man, you've got me going. I wish I had a clue because I've only read one of these books, and they may change things from the books. I have no clue. Yeah. I'm ready to ride this crazy thing as you are. Next week, guys, we're going to be breaking down episode number 5, which has this short description. Rob makes costly mistakes as Cassie immerses herself in the art of being Lexi. Dun, dun, dun.
Bad mistakes, eh?
Yeah, people...
Well, already made a few of those so far. It will be interesting to see with Cassie if it is one of those 4 students that killed her or whether there is an outside person. Am I right in thinking that the house might be in the way of the motorway?
That I'm not sure. Possibly, yeah.
I thought I heard someone say something about it, but I might have misheard. I wasn't really paying attention. right at the moment. So forget that. I could be wrong. So we'll ignore that bit for the moment. But edit that bit out just in case. But I am dying to know what the connection with these four people and Lexie is, and why Lexie was killed, and also who the guy was that we saw her with outside the pub in the car.
We got to find that out. Once again, I'm going to download that previous episode and figure this out.
Yeah. Well, I sort of got a picture of him in my head, but I can't think of him being in any other scenes. Not yet, anyway. Yeah, I might go back and have another look as well. My wife just said, is he the one that when they have Alexie's phone and they're ringing it, is he the one that the phone keeps ringing? Oh,
what if it is? Oh, my God. This is all tied together. Ask, have you ever told your wife, crying women get me hard? Is that something, another thing you shouldn't say from good old Rob?
I haven't tried that yet, but I don't think I will.
Oh, a very adult show we got here.
Straight through the nose coming if I say something like that.
Yeah, be careful. Don't say anything like that.
I just don't think it would be a very good pickup line anywhere.
No, I don't think so either. Listeners, we're going to end this episode of Irish Crack the way we end every episode of Irish Crack, and that's by going through some Irish slang that hopefully we outsiders can understand what the hell's going on. I've got a new one today, and it's a new one in honor of Sam and Rob. It's a on me Todd. A lonely lad says, I'm on me Todd. It means he's riding solo at the bar. He's alone in general. Apparently, Todd Sloan was an American jockey who was there, and he was always by himself at pubs and bars. And so Sloan was always said to be on his own. So the expression became an example of kind of like a Cockney rhyming slang for Todd Sloan always rhymes with on me own. But instead it's now just be, I'm on me Todd.
Did you look this up or did somebody tell you?
No, thank God no one told me that. I'd feel really heartbroken if somebody told me that. I did look it up.
I have got one little thing that I forgot to mention earlier.
Sure.
Which is just Cassie talking to Rob after Rob had spoken to the young Garda when he says, you're exploiting his man crush. Which that was a nice one.
Oh, it is. It is. And he is exploiting his man crush.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, that's young police officer, or they call him Garda Phelan, who that is. Rob needs to let this Phelan do more work.
I'd be interested to see if Quigley's going to come into it more now that the split up Cassie and Rob, whether Quigley's going to go with one of them or not.
Well,
although I suppose Cassie will go with Frank.
Right.
So, well, maybe Quigley will go with Rob, or they're going to let Rob go on his own.
Well, boy, you don't want to do that.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes from here on.
Without question.
Think about it. Having the two stories actually might be a good idea.
Why do you say that?
If it's just one story, then it does become a bit of a case of they're just going around to the usual people, and then eventually somebody will crack and give it away, and like they do in most police shows, eventually somebody gives it away. But by having two stories, and you're not sure whether they're connected at all, or like it might turn out that there is a connection between all of it, or there is no connection at all. So, yeah, it's interesting. There aren't too many stories that will have a major crime story going on and then bring in another major crime story in the middle of it. I know it's two books put together, but it is an interesting idea.
It is. I think this is going to make it harder for armchair detectives like myself to solve it, it is tightening the noose around everybody, and I like that.
Yeah. And of course, when Rob goes bananas with his machine gun and kills everyone, and we'll just say, yeah, we picked that right from the start. No, we'll be right.
And you keep saying you've never read this book. What's going on there?
Well, I mean, the first ad was a giveaway when I saw him charging along with a machine gun. So, yeah. No, seriously, I have no idea which way it's going to go for either case. There are people that you think they look very guilty, but are they guilty or are they just, having bad lives, like Sandra Scully, for example? You think, what's she hiding? But is she hiding something, or is she just having a miserable life? All she does is clean the ballet studio, and it's not the life she thought she was going to have. And
right. Well, she had the best episode ever, because I'm not sure she was in the episode. Everybody in this episode had a miserable day, so she got a day off. That's great.
Well, she had the miserable episode the week before, I think. So
right. She did her time in squad misery.
Yes. Have you got a prediction, since you haven't read the likeness? Have you got a prediction of what's going to happen with Lexie and the students?
I need more information on the likeness, and I need more of that plot. Once again, it feels like we're just dipping our toes in it. So we need a lot of that for me to catch up with what's going on and make some thoughts. I'll say this, though. Once again, I read it right at the top. These books and these novels are really meant to put their lead detectives through the emotional ringer. So because I have already seen what's happening with Rob, and from the book, I know that, guess what? He's got a lot more emotional ringing and or trouble coming to him. I just know that Cassie's if it's similar, Cassie's in big, big trouble. Oh my Lord, she's in trouble. So this is going to be fun to watch. Ask me that question again next week. Hopefully I'll have something.
Yeah, well, hopefully next week we'll get a bit more information about the other students and know whether they're likely to have done it or whether it was an outside person. So we probably won't know, but we can at least have a go.
For everybody here at Irish Craic, my name's Bubba. Please write to us on our main Twitter account at DoublePHQ. On Instagram, we're also at DoublePHQ. And or go to Facebook, facebook.com/DoublePHQ. The word double, the letter P, and letters HQ for headquarters. We want to talk to you. You can talk to me, Bubba, individually on Twitter at FittenTrim. That's FITTENTRIM. At FittenTrim on Twitter.
And you can talk to me at Bagga, BAGGA 2007.
Right.
And you can tell me off my stupid theories at the start of the show.
No, I think you need to give him other shows that you need to rope into his great theories. So we'll talk to you next week on Irish Craic.